This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, welcome back to Invest Like a Pro. This is Joe Rabil. And so today's video, I want to talk about something that you might be doing without realizing it. And sometimes we get so uber focused on the indicators that we forget to keep an eye out for just plain old trend and support and resistance. So I want to talk about how to avoid some trades that you're probably getting chopped up in. And if you can do this and kind of keep this one thing in mind, I think it'll really help avoid marginal trades. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this now. For anyone who's interested in learning more about trend and momentum in multiple timeframes, you can go to rabilstockresearch.com/book. I'm offering my book at a discount right now in a PDF format, so feel free to take a look at that. Okay, so I want to start out with the XLB because I want to make something just absolutely crystal clear. And I'm going to clear everything off here except for the price. And if you go and you start looking, and so again, most of you know this is really not a trade time frame unless you're going to trade intraday. Okay, so it's going to be one of these three time frames you're watching that's going to determine a setup. If you're a longer term player, you're going to use these two together, but the monthly chart is going to give you the setup. If you're looking intermediate term, then the weekly chart is going to provide the setup. And if you're looking a little shorter term, then the daily is going to provide the setup. All right, but before we go and look at our indicators, we need to look for some form of trend. There has to be some form of trend in place. All right, now if we go and look at the 18 on this time frame, we have a slightly declining 18 MA, right? We have price resistance right about here. We've got a little bit more price resistance just above. All right, so on this time frame, we don't really have a trend forming. Now, it almost looks like a consolidation pattern where these two are coming together, where if I went up to a 3-month chart or a quarterly chart, we could be setting up a quarterly monthly pattern. But this doesn't look like a trade time frame to me. And again, I haven't looked at the indicators. So be very cautious about starting with MACD or potentially even starting with ADX. But most of the time, if ADX is kicking in and looking good, then it'll show up on this. Where I see a lot of guys, what I notice is they'll go and look at the MACD and they'll see some kind of a pinch forming or something like that. But there's no trend here. We haven't been making higher highs and higher lows. There's no setup, right? And the setup is based on price. The MACD and the ADX just support that thesis, all right? And you got to think that way. Now, if I go to the weekly chart, I've got a flat 18 and a flat 40. I don't really have a trend time frame. And then the way you can check yourself on this is look at where support and resistance is, and you can kind of see this is more of a sideways pattern. Now, this did go up. It came down and made a new low, and then it moved up and came down here. So if you're looking for a trading play, yes, you could potentially play a little trading move and try and move up here. But look, if I'm looking to do this and I find another of the XLs that's actually made a new high or is trending and is pulling back to this area rather than failing at it, I'm a lot more interested in that one than I am this one, right? I mean, if XLB is one of your patterns or one of your stocks or markets that you have to take every trade, and I guess that's one thing, but that's only if you're really only dealing with a few symbols. And I usually only look at that from an intraday standpoint. Like I'll look at 5 stocks if I'm trading intraday or something like that, or 5 ETFs. But when it comes to picking, especially off of a weekly chart, monthly chart, or even a daily chart, I'm usually going and trying to find the best stocks, the best markets, the ones that have the strongest patterns, and not ones that are still range bound. So a way to check yourself is watch that 18 on the trend time frame, on the time frame you're trying to put a trade on. If it pulls back So let's just make sure you get this. If it pulls back to the moving average, and the moving average is essentially flat. Now, it was trying to cup around, but it was really kind of flat here. And if price isn't clearly making higher highs and higher lows, then you probably shouldn't go looking for a MACD signal. All right? Because if we start to pull that up, we can see that there was a pinch play that did develop. All right. Now, if you took the trade, well, actually, you wouldn't have taken this trade. You might have been taking it here because now we're getting a second pinch. So this would be a 2-time frame pinch play. But hopefully I've explained to you why this is more of a marginal trade. It doesn't have a trend on this time frame. I'd prefer to find one that is trending. Now, I will say this. If I'm going to trade something inside of a range like this, I want it to actually come down and undercut and do that. Then I have real potential to move to the upper end of the range or even break out potentially. But I don't really want to buy something that just failed at resistance. I'd rather do something that failed at support, meaning it tried to break down and then turned up, right? So I'm looking for those kind of a pinch play patterns, not necessarily the ones that are doing it after failing at resistance. So let's just look at something like XLY. Now, again, if I go to the monthly chart, I've got a declining 18-month. I don't have a trade on this time frame. Yeah, the MACD is improving. It's turning at the zero. It's a zero-line reversal. But I don't have a trade. I hope everyone's getting this. If we go and look at any specific time frame, look at the slope of the 18 on this time frame and look at the slope of the 18 on this time frame. That'll almost always tell you whether you have a trend or not. Now, if I go and look at this time frame, yeah, we got a trend. Look at the rising 18. Look at the above the rising 40. You see the difference? To me, it's pretty blatant. I mean, the 40 is above the 18 on the monthly chart, right? Look at that. 18 is below the 40 on this time frame. 18 is below the 40 on this time frame. I don't really have a trend on this time frame. This is more of a trigger time frame, not a trend time frame. Okay, so start with price. Look to see if you can create a pattern, a swing chart pattern. And some of the guys I coach, I notice, like to have their zigzag up, and I don't blame them. I think it's a good idea. It's a self-checking mechanism that says, you know what? If I've got a move like this, I've got a trend. I'm making a higher high. I've made a higher low and higher high, and now I'm trying to make another higher low. I mean, to me, this is a lot more convincing than what we saw in the XLB. So I got this. Now I know I got good momentum. Okay, so this is a pinch play that I'd probably be a lot more interested in. Now it's a 2-time frame pinch play. Yeah, there was a little bit of overrun by the time this triggered. So you may not have taken the trade, but I'm just what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to find you a trade to take right this second. I'm trying to get you to understand how to avoid marginal trades. Trades that meet the criteria in my book and in my course. But once you get down to the brass tacks and say, is this really what we want? It doesn't really meet it. I want to find something that has a trend in place. I don't really want to get focused in on something that's not trending. And so, you know, what that should do is shrink your universe. Look for, and let's take it down to a really simple level. I mean, if the 18 on the trade time, so if you play weekly dailies, all right, and you're playing a stock that has an 18 that's doing this, then you better be doing this. You better be buying support and selling resistance. All right. If you're playing a trend trade with a flat 18, you're going to get chopped up. You're going to get chopped up. Now, if you have either this or this, all right, then so if the 18 is either rising or it's falling, now you have some potential. All right. Now, here's the problem with this right now. If you go and look at a weekly, I'm saying we're a weekly daily player. All right. So you play weekly daily. If we're a weekly daily player, I want to go look at the S&P and look at the SPY and say, is the 18 rising or falling? Well, if it's rising, then I want to favor those trades on the charts that I want to play, on the stocks that I want to play, or the ETFs that I want to play, or the XLs I want to play. All right. If the S&P, if the SPY, whoops. If the SPY has an 18 that's falling, now I want to favor the 18s that are doing this in the stocks and the ETFs that I'm playing. All right. So if we go and we look at what the S&P is doing, I mean, we just pull back to a rising 18. Now, this doesn't mean it's a buy and that it's going to work. We can see there's a little bit of momentum slowdown here. But I'm just saying, like, if I'm going and looking for a trade right now, I'm probably going and looking for the dailies. I mean, the uptrends on the weeklies, if I'm a weekly daily player. Now, if I'm a daily guy and I'm playing daily hourly, it's probably not the best time. Why? Because we don't really have a trend. We have the potential for this to turn up. And, you know, if you're nimble, I guess you could try and play this as a swing trade to the upside, but it hasn't really kicked in yet. I do see there's a pinch play here. We got another pinch play here, but it gapped up on the trigger. So we probably need a little bit more confirmation. I mean, I don't have a huge problem with you doing that, but just realize if you're playing a time frame and the 18 is flat, all right, you're going to be subject to more chop. Okay, we want to avoid the chop as much as we can. Chop is just, you know, it's where you think you're doing good trading, but you're in reality, you're taking marginal trades that really aren't ready yet. It doesn't mean you're wrong. In a lot of cases, you could get chopped up a little bit and then it goes in the direction that you expected. So use this to your advantage. Make sure you got the 18 and the 40 working in your advantage. At a very minimum, make sure that 18 is rising in the direction of the trade if you're looking long, and make sure that it is falling if you're looking to go short. And one other point I will make. So if you want to play the downside and the S&P is in an uptrend, then look for the times where the S&P is up here and it looks like it needs to pull back. So the daily might be showing divergence and room for a pullback. And then you could go and say, okay, I want to play a move to the downside and play it pretty tight because you know you're playing counter trend to the market. All right. All these things are important to your win rate and avoiding marginal trades. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thanks.